Hello, my name is Joanna Daw and you're all very welcome to this Dunboyne podcast. So today with me we have actually teachers, two teachers in the school, and we have Maeve Nemo, who is our career guidance counsellor. And the discussion today is going to centre around mature students and mature learning. And all of the people with me today, Jean Young, Jennifer Brady, and of course the lovely Maeve Nemo, we're going to be discussing really what it's like to go back to college as a mature learner and how to really to juggle that work-life, academic life balance. So, and as I said, the ladies here today have all a lot of experience in that field. So firstly, I'm going to go to Jean. Now, Jean was, she was an intern with me a couple of years ago, weren't you, Jean?
Yeah, exactly. This time 3 years ago.
This time 3 years ago, Jean was an intern with me. She was doing a HDIP in Maynooth, having had worked in industry for many years. So Jean is going to tell me a little bit about the experience you had with going back as a mature learner.
Yeah. I suppose it took a little bit of thought and a lot of discussion, especially with my family and my husband, to see how we were going to do it. And I also, I suppose, had to be in that right place as well to say that I'm going to take quite a significant career change at this point in my life. I've been working for about 25 years, so I'm revealing my age there. But a lot of industry experience, I suppose, especially in the whole area of corporate social responsibility and communications. I had, to be honest, I was very close to doing the HDIP originally when I left college, when I graduated from Maynooth the first time, very close to doing it. And then I decided to do a communications course. It was always something at the back of my mind. And then, as I say, we made the decision together to go for it, and I did an interview, but very much a chat really with the higher diploma in further education people in Maynooth, and they were very realistic about the course, but they were also, very much open to it. So they encouraged me. I got a place on the course, and then exactly this time, 3 years ago, I toddled into your class, and you were stuck with me.
And we were like a double act.
We were like a double act, yeah. Yeah, I have to admit, I'll be perfectly honest, those first few weeks, even though, you genuinely made me so welcome, I was very nervous. Mm-hmm. I was really nervous. I said, what am I? Am I, how will the other people in my class see me, et cetera, et cetera. That's what I was particularly conscious of. And to be perfectly honest, they didn't bat an eyelid. They really didn't. They were very welcoming as well. And we, of course, we had great crack in the class as well on occasion, which helped, and yeah, I really kind of took it from there.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go to Maeve here now, because Maeve, obviously you also have a very busy schedule here. I mean, you're working full time here as a career guidance counsellor, and it was last year then you went back. Well, you've done a lot of your education has been as a mature learner, and you look after our mature learners here, and you guide them and you're a support for them. How did you feel going back? I mean, how was it, with regards trying to cope with the workload? Was there a lot of anxiety around that with having a family as well?
Yeah, thanks, Joanna. I suppose you go into it a bit naively. So I went back to study an undergraduate degree 11 years ago as the start of the journey in psychology, and I went into that sort of thinking that I'd get a degree and happy days, I'd be grand and that's it, I'd be all sorted. And I suppose I was just a bit naive, and the journey was much longer than that. Mm-hmm. And I remember, and I tell the mature students that I work with now, that I remember sort of that first year after being in the workplace for about maybe like 20 years, nearly at that stage. I remember starting the course in September and in first year on the undergraduate degree in psychology, and being about November, and I remember sort of dancing around my room with my hands on my head going, what am I doing? I can't do this. I'm stupid. I'm thick. I can't do this. Like just completely overwhelmed by it all and trying to figure out what am I going to do. But then all of a sudden I got to Christmas and I thought, oh my God, I've got half of first year done. And then you're into the second half and there's light at the end of the tunnel and you're like, oh, I'm nearly finished first year. I can't believe it. Where is the time gone? I can't believe it. And nothing ever is as hard as that ever again as coming back into education. So even though the work gets harder in second year and third year and fourth year, you build slowly to it. So your confidence is growing, but your skills are growing. Everything's growing, and
your brain is growing,
and your brain, and your size if you're not careful what you're eating when you're so busy.
Did you lock the fridge as well? Like I had to do.
So it's nothing is ever as first year going back into study, and also like you mentioned, family. Like I had at that time 3 teenage boys, and you're trying to, and I was worked full time and I'm studying at night time, and you're trying to fit it all in, and you just think, oh my God, where will I go? But strangely enough, everything has its own little pocket. It does settle down into a little schedule, and you say, right, now it's time for me to go to work. Now it's time for me to pick up the kids from school. Now it's time for me to do the homework with them. Now it's time for me to do groceries, a bit of cleaning the house. Now it's time for me to make the dinner. And then eventually, now it's time for me to study. So you find all these little boxes and you find a way to manage it, and it becomes very manageable. It's when you look back, you do think, oh my God, how did I do all that? But you do it, and you do manage to get through it. Mm-hmm. But nothing is ever as hard as actually trying to go back into education.
It's the stepping in for the first day, isn't it? Jennifer, what was your experience? Because you did your HDIP in NCI, wasn't it? Yeah. Was it last year or the year before?
The year before.
Year before. And how did you find it? Was it daunting, the thought of going back?
Yeah, it had been so long. So I'd studied, I was a solicitor first, and I'd obviously studied when I was younger, but then I was out for like 10 years, and I'd actually 4 small children, so I'd stopped working as well. So I was at home for like 3 years, and then decided I wanted to go and do this. And so definitely those first few, even just filling out the forms and seeing all the subjects there in front of you and everything that you have to do, you're thinking. And also then you have to do so I did my practice in Drogheda, so you were doing that as well, and it's a lot, and 4 small kids. But I think it is just taking it piece by piece by piece, and you've gotten to the midterm, October, you've gotten a certain amount of things done, then you've gotten a certain amount of assignments done, and then you get to Christmas, and it just is just breaking it down like that. Mm-hmm. And the children did have to have conversations. I can't do as much as I did before. There does have to be a balance, but everyone has to kind of help out a bit more. And I think that's... And
did you find that you had that there was a lot of upheaval in your personal life? Did you? And how did you manage that? Did you put systems in place? Everybody had to help out.
Timetables, charts and timetables, and I did. I definitely did. I had to have charts for people to take on jobs that they wouldn't have had to do before. My husband had to take on more things than he would have had to do before. So you have to have all these conversations, I suppose, to have those supports in place. But once you get that done, and once you start that, and you do have to factor in the time for studying, or it all can get on top of you. Mm-hmm. So when when your assignments are done, that you timetable your time, days when children have no activities on, they're the days that you need to be studying and need to be getting those assignments done. Mm-hmm. So you don't, when you're a young student, you've all this time, you probably leave it more to the last minute. You can't do that now. So when you have time, you need to be doing
And when you're a student, you haven't got a family to look after. Yeah. I mean, really your life is your own. Yeah. You do what you want. Whereas you're also trying to do homework with children, you're trying to cook, you're trying to keep all, and run a household, and it can be very difficult. So what would you say is the greatest anxiety around? Is it am I going to be able to balance all this? Are the children going to miss out? Or is it, am I going to be fit for that? But a lot of people come back to education that haven't been maybe in education for a long time. Even the idea of technology, because we were talking about this morning, Jean. We were saying even the fact that you have to use technology, a new technology, which is like a new language. I mean, I remember teaching years ago, I taught adult ed classes, and a lot of people, there was one man in the class, and he hadn't been in school since he was 13, and he was coming back to do a course. And when we started, and we said, move your mouse across, and he said, what's a mouse? Didn't know about keyboard, didn't know about any of that, and that caused so much anxiety. What would you say about that? The anxiety around all of that. Did you? But you wouldn't have sensed that, would you?
Totally. There was two parts for me. One was definitely the IT, and to be perfectly honest, still is the IT. Sometimes.
I know, I'm telling you,
Very,
I was asking
very
me
good
questions.
IT team here.
Brilliant,
Shout out
brilliant.
to the IT team. And the second one was how to study and how to even start going back in. Because we were, I was used to in a work environment producing a report or doing a presentation or whatever. But the actual studying bit, what is this teacher looking for?
Yeah.
What is this assignment looking for? That, and I'll talk about that in a moment as well. But the IT piece, if I can just think about somebody who was in one of my classes last year, and in fairness, somebody who had been working again for young boys, and I said, okay, everybody upload to OneDrive, and everybody else was flying away, and particularly, I suppose, people who had been on laptops during COVID, and that was fine. And she was, oh my God, what's OneDrive? And what I really found helped, I obviously tried to help her. There was absolute help in the college for her. But I found as well, her peers, the people around her, were so generous and they were really supportive, and she did exceptionally well. And we were joking at the end of the year saying, you could upload anything now. It was just, that was her kind of her barrier. And the field that she's going into as well, she is such a fantastic fit with it. She's so empathetic. She's so much life experience. She's so much cop on. She's delighted. But I think at the very beginning, she just needed somebody to say, press that button, as you say, move that mouse. Yeah. If you save it in OneDrive, it's there. You're fine. And once she got over that hurdle, I think she really took it into her stride. And then the second bit just for me would have been around the studying. And when I was originally in college, we had books and periodicals and maybe a microfiche. Nobody will have even heard of them. Maybe.
What are you talking about, Jim? No. That's another language. What's that?
But then I found when I went back, it's actually, it's not too little information. It's actually managing all of the huge amount of information that's out there and trying to figure out how do you take it, distill it, find out what's right, what's actually, accurate. When it's all coming at you, and how then do you form your ideas? Because ultimately, all teachers, whether we're in PLC or in third level, want to know your ideas. Yeah, what do you? And
it's another way of working, isn't it? When you're studying, I mean, it's not like when you're working, you have some level of autonomy. Haven't you? You do your own thing. You decide what you want to do, and you plan it out yourself and whatnot. But suddenly, you're having to follow assignment briefs and all of that. And it's all very, very structured. Yeah. And that's hard to get back into that, isn't it? What would you think, Maeve?
I find from working with the mature students in the role that I'm in the college as guidance counsellor, I have found that the biggest fear for them is confidence of being able to, for the work and being able to study. So while we all have in common here about being mature students ourselves and having to juggle a family and all that goes with that, in a house and going to college and going to work and finding time to study, they seem to take a back step even to the fear of actually being able for the work. And I think that's the thing that is single most a problem to mature students coming back in to learn. And the IT thing there that Jean's talking about as well really exaggerates that for them then as well. There's just, the fear is unbelievable, but always by the end of the year, the mature students are coming back to you and saying to you that they love it. And I tell them at the start that they're going to get the bug, and and they're looking at you as if you have 10 heads and they're wondering, like, thinking, oh my God. But inevitably they do, like, the confidence builds so much, and they know then by getting one bit of it work back that, oh my God, I was able to do that, and then another piece of work comes back, and it slowly builds and builds and builds.
I think I always love with the mature learners, the way they say education is wasting the young, and you see the mature students come in, and when they get the hang of it, they're so motivated and so driven.
Yeah. Well, they're coming back like trying to juggle that family, and they're paying for it themselves, and they're not coming back because Mummy and Daddy are telling them you go and do that course now. They're coming back because they want to. So you're going to put 100% in,
and trying to change that. They want to change their lives. They want to upskill, and they want to be more employable, especially somebody maybe that it has been at home looking after a family. I mean, like you could tell, I don't know how many stories about mature learners that come back and suddenly the world is their oyster, and on they go, and they go into different jobs, and they suddenly you realise they've been promoted in that job. And a lot of people, I mean, I had a lot of mature learners a few years ago when I worked in a college in Dundalk. So there's actually 2 of those mature learners now went on to do PhDs. And they said, and from not being at school, rearing their children, and suddenly, and you say it's so rewarding, isn't it? Like, Jennifer, how did you feel when you'd actually finished that course and you realised?
Yeah. Even as Maeve says, getting that positive feedback. So that very first assignment, and it'd been so long since you sat down to do an assignment, and you're getting around, Moodle and using Moodle and how they wanted you to submit and everything like that. And then you get that first positive feedback, and you just are on a high, and you kind of feel like you can do it more and more and more, and such. You're relieved at the end, but it is such a boost to your confidence to feel like, oh gosh, I signed up for that. Look at everything I've done. I've done it despite the children, despite the fear, despite it being so long since I'd studied anything. And you are just delighted with yourself. And then so many doors open for you then, that you then can follow on and do something else. And it's always there that you've done that.
And I even think being a role model for your children.
Yeah.
Your children watch you going back to college.
Absolutely.
I mean, what do you feel about that? What do you think of that idea? Do you think that feeds into the family then?
Yeah. Even it feeds in, even if they don't even follow suit and go to college, it feeds into just dedication, hard work, the effort, all those things that they can see, and they apply then in their own lives, be it whether they want to go to work, whether they want to do an apprenticeship, whatever they do, but that they'll see the get up and go in the house, that it's this progression in the house. People want to actually do things and do more and achieve more for themselves.
Yeah, I was just going to say one instance where my little fella had gone from junior infants, or juniors as they call it, juniors to seniors. And he said to me, one evening he was just too tired and he was overwrought. He said, I can't do my homework, Mammy, and this is just too hard. I want to go back to juniors, and this is just, I can't do my homework. And I just said, Andrew, I said, my homework is really hard too. And, I said, and it actually is really hard. It's a philosophy essay. But
Loved those.
we've
all had those.
I didn't tell him that. But I think he actually, he kind of started laughing then, and he said, oh yeah, I suppose it like that. It kind of registered.
Yeah.
At any stage, your homework can be hard, and we'll take it step by step, and we'll go through it or whatever.
Yeah.
And we kind of moved on from there. But you're kind of just trying to even empathise, as you say, that you're kind of saying, look, I'm taking on something new here, and we'll have to do it.
But even I think, with parents and with mature students, I think even the fact that they can help their children at home, with the homework and all of that, like there's so many people that I know, they said it was great, they were doing essays, they were doing whatever, they were doing research, and I was able to help them with bibliography, help them with, all of these
amazing.
sort of academic sort of, ideas. And they said, like, I would never have had the confidence before when they used to ask me, can you help me with homework? I said, I wouldn't have a clue, don't be asking me. And suddenly there I was, been able to facilitate this. And I remember one woman saying to me, it has really changed the relationship that I have with my children, because my children seem to
do look at you differently.
They are looking at me differently now, because and plus as well, they're looking at look at the work ethic and look at the discipline that goes into all that, and it's fantastic. Like, it just feeds.
And the effort.
The effort
is huge. You as a mature student, you're going to be, if you've got a family at home or you're running a house, you're going to be studying late at night. Like, so the effort is that they see that you put in then is huge.
So I was interested, Maeve, when you said about that bug. It is sort of addictive, isn't it?
Yeah.
And people say to me, I'd love to come back as a mature student, but I don't know if I'd be fit for it. I said, once it grasps you, you will not be able to stop.
No, you can't stop. Like, because as well, mature students come back into education to something that they enjoy. They pick it. Not like when they're in their 20s coming from school, or 18 coming from school. They don't really pick it, even though they think they've picked it. Like, as in they've written it on the CIO form and they've gotten an offer of it. They haven't really, the life experiences of knowing that this is the area that they really love. So as an adult student, you come back into something you love. I came back in to study psychology, and you just love it, like, and you just want to learn more and more and more all the time. And one of the mature students here a couple of years ago jumps into my mind. She had taken our applied psychology, and she'd been out of work and at home for years. I think all of her life was at home with the kids, about 20 years, and she was coming back into education, and she was really only dipping her toe in, and I had told her as well, like, you're going to love it. You're not wanted to end. And when the year was coming, after Christmas side, she was getting back in touch with me more and more and more, and asking me more about the psychology degrees. And she went on and she got a mature entry place. She secured a place through the mature entry in psychology in a university, and she went on to do the degree. So
it's amazing.
Yeah. And the other thing I was just going to say, something Maeve reminded me of. At one point, I wasn't sure myself. Even I was trying to figure out teaching council stuff, and somebody said, "Go over and have a chat with Maeve or Derek." And I was like, "Oh, I don't want to be." I've been saying I don't want to be kind of annoying them. I've gotten over that. But I remember
she certainly has. She's a path beaten over to you, Mel.
I remember going over to you and we had a chat. I'm not sure if you even remember it, but I was like, I came out, and part of it for me as well, to be honest, I did my intercert and my leaving cert. Yeah. And it has changed, unless you again have kids maybe going through that system. I was like, it was all a whole lot of new terminology, even in the education field to me. And I said, I need to understand, as well as what I'm teaching and my choices, but I need to understand what the student in a PLC, for example, is looking for. And Maeve and Derek really helped me with that, get my head around all of that. Which was enormously helpful.
I'm good. The end of that story is a positive one.
No, absolutely.
That
that might be something
disaster.
You mightn't say, look, I don't really understand the point system now in comparison to what I did.
So different.
Yeah, it's so different.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose, for all of you, I mean, you were a solicitor, you worked in industry, I worked in industry, you worked in industry. I think that, we don't really understand how much education can be something very transformative for a mature student, because I know that there's a lot of people coming back that haven't been to college for many years and haven't, maybe they've been at home. And I think, the very fact that now you've got a choice that you can come back as a mature learner, because, many years ago, that was it. You come out of the school system for whatever reason, you left the school system, or it didn't work out for you, or whatever, or, you were at home, bringing up a family or whatever, or maybe you were in a job that you wanted to upskill. I mean, I think that the choices that we have now, the very fact that we can come back and we can take on these courses and we can start our education. Like, I remember there was my nephew was graduating out of Queen's Medicine, and there was an old man in the course. He was 83 years of age and he qualified as a doctor. He'd been a farmer all of his life, and he said, I'm never going to be a doctor, but I always wanted to be a doctor, and I never got the opportunity. And he said, as soon as I got the opportunity, he said, I'm going for it. And there he was, qualifying, at 83 years of age. But, it really does, I think, education for anybody, but especially somebody that hasn't been in education for a long time, it can give you a voice. And I've seen adults come in and terrified of technology, terrified that they're not going to be fit for the work, terrified that they're not going to be able to cope with the constraints of family and all of that. And suddenly, it's like you see this completely different person emerging, and it really gives them a voice. And I think that even the fact that we were all able to come back, like, what an opportunity. Like, I remember when I did my degree, my son, youngest boy, who's 22 now, he was only a baby. And I remember I had my books and journals and everything. So when I used to get up in the middle of the night to feed him, I used to read a couple of chapters. And then, because I could feel the change in me, like you said about the confidence building, your self-esteem is going up, and suddenly you realised I can do these things. And plus, it was opening a whole other world of literature, or of what you love to do, and it was fantastic. So how can we promote that more?
Do you know, when you really put it in context about how you're saying, you got up in the middle of the night when you were feeling and read a couple of chapters because you want to learn more, and you were getting better and your confidence was growing. But like when we think about it, if you're running and you're trying to do 5K, like you build to 1K, you're trying to get fit, or you're going from nothing to getting fit. And like my eldest guy at home now at the moment has started fitness the last few months, and the difference is amazing. He's running further and everything. But our brain is the exact same. We just can't see it. You can't see it, that you're getting better and stronger all the time.
It's evolving.
It's evolving all the time.
And I think not only does your brain evolve, obviously through education, but you as a person, you evolve. And I remember a woman saying to me once, she had gone back. It was actually very funny because she had 5 children. And when she went back to do a history degree in Queen's in Belfast, and she was on the bus, her husband was working away, she was on the bus going to Belfast for her final exams, and she was 9 months pregnant. Oh, God. And she literally, was so determined that she was going to sit those final exams, and she actually went into labour. In the halls in Queen's, and
pure dedication.
Yeah, and she went on to be a teacher, and when her students would say, "This is very hard, I'm very tired," she always told the story of, "Well, did you ever give birth on the floor of Queen's Hall?" But the thing about it is, I remember her saying to me, "I had no voice all of my life." And then with education, she said, suddenly I developed a voice because I knew what I was talking about. And she said, and I knew then that I was a capable person, that I could hold a conversation with anybody. Yeah. And then she went on to go into politics, and she did all of these other things. She's retired now, that always stuck in my mind. That woman saying, it was the first time that I had a voice when I, went after that education and got it. What's your experience, or what? Let's not say experience. Let's say, what advice would you give somebody after your experiences of education? Because there's going to be people listening to this, and there's going to be people thinking, I'd love to come back, but I don't know if I'd be fit for it. Would I be able to do it with everything that's going on in my life? Or as you say, the fear of not being able to do it.
But also what Jean mentioned there a little while ago about coming and asking myself and Derek questions, and I think that's key to to the answer to your question there as well, Joanna, that it's really opening up communications. And I tell the younger students as well, like when they're trying to find a degree to do, and when we're working with them as well, that way it's the knowledge is key. Information is key. It's asking for the help is key. We can't do everything ourselves. And when you're a mature student trying to come back into education, the fear, it can be silencing. As you're saying, you get a voice, but it's also silencing. That fear can result in you just saying, no, I just won't do it. I just won't do it. Whereas if you ask one question once, that leads to another question another time. So it's really, I think, important for somebody thinking about it is to try and talk to somebody, not just look up the information online, but actually contact somebody and hear a voice of somebody else, because it just does something, and it gives that cue to sort of look further into it, and then the ball starts to roll, And
I think it's even increasing your social circle in some ways, because the people that you study with, I'm still friends with the people that I studied with years ago, and we meet up, and so it's the whole social aspect. How did you all find that with going back? Did you find there was a whole new friend set then?
Yeah, I suppose just COVID obviously scuppered a lot of things.
We didn't actually see each other, did we?
We didn't know. Just 2 quick things I was going to say is, one is I was actually in Joanna's classroom when the government announced that shut down on the middle of March that time. And we
were actually a Thursday, and we were told we just have to go.
And I remember we looked at each other because the students were looking at this as an extended Paddy's weekend.
Yeah.
And I remember we were looking at each other going, I don't know,
right here,
something not right. But I just think to literally everybody, fair play to everybody, whether, you're, whatever age you are, whatever your position is, you're different, all of our different roles in life. I just think if we can all get through COVID and get through, get through studying and get through life and get through work and get through, everything that has to do with that, I think, That has been a massive challenge, and we did get through it. So.
And when you talk about, like, you know, socially and friends, and you see them here, like our students, like the mature students, we will try and do lots for them in the college to try bring them together. And this year we have Gemma Finn looking after them as well, in terms of trying to get them to come together, and she'll hold coffee mornings and things like that as well. And they do get to know each other, and they are drawn to each other as well. We are all in life drawn to, you know, people who are like us anyway. But it makes such a difference because Jen and I were actually on our HDIP together the year before last in NCI, and because
all
it was
online,
because it was online in COVID. When Jen started working here the year after,
Seeing the name,
we didn't actually know what each other looked like. Obviously, we saw each other on Teams,
It's not the
but
same.
it's not the same as. So we didn't actually recognise each other after spending a year studying together. We spent a
Crazy.
year studying together.
Yeah.
We didn't
Twice
actually
a
know
week.
each other twice a week for a
Crazy.
whole year. We didn't actually know each other when we met in person.
Thank God COVID is. Because even you see some of the mature students we've just been doing, like Induction, and you'll see them click, like, oh, what children have you, or what classes are your children in? And they do seem to be drawn together and click with each other straight away. And I think that's really
It's great
important.
the face-to-face, though, isn't it,
super.
for garnering those friendships.
Relationships, yeah.
And even I think when you see mature students, even in an environment with, you know, students who are 18 and 19, they say it's actually great being with young people, you know, and just after maybe working in industry or working, you know, at home or whatever, and you just say it's like a breath of fresh air being able to come in, and they get an understanding, I think, sometimes of their own children because they're with these young people on a daily basis. So I'm going to take some questions now. So actually, Maeve, we have a question for you, and this is from Orla. So Orla is asking, you know, she wants to come back as a mature learner, and she's very nervous about it. She hasn't been to college for a very long time. She said, what sort of supports are in the college for her?
So, and it's great that that's asked, because we are really, you know, open to our mature students. Mature students for us bring a lovely dynamic in our classes. So, like, we really want mature students to come back into education, and we really want it to be a very supportive place for them. So there's lots of different things that we do, like for all our students, but then for mature students, we obviously have separate additions to that. So we have our academic support for students, for all students who will need help with, that's open to all the student community, need help with like assignments, briefs. You know, when you get an assignment brief, and Jen mentioned it at the start there, that you don't even know what's in it, or you know, what's expected. Jean said what's expected from the teacher. We have academic help to help with all that, but we have maths support as well, and we have IT support, so support in terms of all the computer work and everything like that. That's all there. But then we have the mature learners themselves coming together. And that's very empowering. So we have coffee mornings, different events like that as well, that will help the students feel more not as much alone, I think, because certainly some of our courses attract more mature students than others. So a lot of our healthcare department will have large numbers of mature students, but there can be other groups that don't have as many. So we really work on, we'll know who the mature learners are, we know which groups they're in, we focus on that, and we pinpoint them to draw them out so that we can support them as well. So that there's a huge support for mature students here at the college.
That's great, thank you. And Orla's given you the thumbs up there. That was a very good answer. Excellent. So Claire,
hope to see you soon, Orla.
Yeah, absolutely. So Claire is asking here, let me see now. Claire has worked in office admin for many years, and she wants to come back to do a PLC. Oh, in law. She wants to come back. So that's and she's a little bit nervous with the thought of the fact that she's worked in the same job for many, many years. That how will that transition be? Or you know, and the fact that she's got children. She says she's got 3 boys at home as well. How is she going to balance all of that and take on something completely new? So Jennifer, I think you could answer that question.
So I suppose it is a change, but I think the best thing is just to start. And there are, as Maeve said, so many supports there to help you along your way. And there will be other students that are in a similar position. There's usually a number of mature students. And the fact that you have that office admin background, that will help you with some of the assignments. That'll help you for your work experience. But you're given guidelines and help along the way. And all students are starting this from scratch. So I know you've been in office admin, but students coming from Leaving Cert, this is very different as well. So you're all starting in a similar place. And I suppose it's just once you're attending the classes and getting all the guidelines for everything you need to do, I think you'll be good.
And getting all the supports
all
as well.
All the supports that are there, yeah.
There you go. I hope that answered your question there. Yeah, Claire said she can't wait to start her PLC.
Good.
Excellent, very good.
Hope to see you.
And then we've another question in here. Let me see. This is from Sean. So Sean said he hasn't been in school for many years. He wants to come back to do a PLC like that as well. He wants to upskill to hopefully maybe change degree or to change career, and he says how is it, or how will he cope getting out of his comfort zone? Do you want to take that one, Jean?
Yeah, I suppose what I'd be thinking about is, as you know, we're talking about doing the H-dip there, and when I went into the class the very first day, it's a real combination of people who've years of experience teaching, or maybe trainers, or have never stepped inside a classroom. It was a real mixture. My assumption day one is, all those teachers people are going to do really well. Sure, why wouldn't they? You know, they're much better than us, and people did thankfully do very well. But you know, the courses, just exactly as Jennifer said, the courses are designed, you know, you're coming in on day one and you're on an equal footing with an equal opportunity and equal supports. And I would say people who are new to it, some experience or buckets of experience looking for the qualification, first of all, helped each other, and you learn a huge amount from each other, as much maybe as you do from the lecturer, I'd say. And secondly, not to assume that somebody else or everybody else is you know, further ahead than you are. You're not. You're all coming in from day one.
Excellent. Thank you, Jean. There you go. Must have taught you well. So we've Clara has posed a challenge now for everybody in the audience, and there's one for everybody in the audience. So Clara has said she is trying to decide whether to come back to do a PLC or not. Can each one of your guests sell PLC in 1 minute to mature learners? Right, Maeve, come on.
Oh, gosh.
Well, I go and talk. This is what I talk about all the time. So hopefully
you're going to win this, Maeve.
Hopefully I can give a good answer.
Yeah, give all the minutes to Maeve.
Literally, if you want to, first of all, if you're coming back in as a mature student, it's a great base to start your education because it's a level 5. So you're not jumping in too heavy. We have a lot of school students that would come here even because they don't want to make that jump straight from school to university because it's just too big. So when you think about a mature learner coming back in, we're a smaller setting. We've got smaller class groups, smaller. The college is smaller than a university, so it's very apt that way to get your foot back in. But also then you see you're learning everything that you have that you need in order to progress further. So if you want to study further and you want to take on a degree, you're setting yourself up nicely for that because you're going to have the set of results to be able to apply with. But also you've got skills on your CV if you want to go to the workplace. So you might want to upskill, but also you might want to go on to study something else. And either way, you're setting yourself up nicely. And if you don't know which it is you want to do yet, or you want to work for a while and then study further in the future, you'll have your set of results in the bag, and you'll have your foot in the door with being back in education to use whatever way you want going forward. So it's a really good starting point.
Excellent. You're the top of the leaders board at the minute. Jennifer, take it away. Jennifer, take it away. Come on, do your best.
I suppose, yeah, similar. It is small groups. There are lots of support there. Then you have a great scope of different areas you can go into if you want to go on to for pre-university courses or the workplace, or even just to give you an idea for what you want to do, I think is really important. So if you think you want to do an area and you want to just try it out, I suppose it works better if you come here and you do your year rather than going off to university and spending, bigger money on fees. The academic support's great, the learning support's great. and the staff are amazing.
And she says, as a member of staff. Right, we're neck and neck. Come on, Jean. It's all it rests on you now.
There are over 50 courses here, level 5, level 6.
Are there?
Mostly during the day. And there are also night classes available. So there is literally something for everybody, whether you want to just
in the audience.
One for everyone.
One for everybody. Whether you want to just try out doing maybe one module to a night class or you sign up in September. We are here. I know, as the principal Dennis Leonard always says, you're just here for the year, so you really have to to make the most of it, and we work very hard on helping people to do that. So I just think it's that year from September to May. You're going to come out with full award, or whatever you need to go on, as we're saying, in employment or in education or looking for a job or whatever. So it's it's just such a good option without it being as you were saying, a really, really long investment, and maybe realising halfway through first year you didn't like it. Yeah. And the last thing to say is, look, if you do decide actually this is not the area for me, that can be really valuable and beneficial too. Mm-hmm. Really helpful to you to realise, there's one student last year who said to me, do you know what, I'm going to do a different course next year. Mm-hmm. And I'm equally as happy to see him do that, because he's realised what he really wants to do.
Exactly.
So, sometimes it's about ruling something out rather than ruling something in.
Exactly. So, closing thought, mature learners, come to a PLC, transform your life, find a voice. What about that?
Yeah.
I think I'll get the chocolate. I think the chocolates are mine. So we've actually come to the end of the podcast.
Thanks,
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
so I want to say a massive thanks to Jean, to Jennifer, and to Maeve.
Thanks, Joanna.
Really enjoyed this podcast today, and thanks a million. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Hit the subscribe button.